Good morning, artists. This is Mrs. Langless here with another remote art project for you today. Today we're going to pick up where we left off last week. Last week, you might remember that we went outside and found some really cool leaves. And then we learned about how lines make up leaves, from the stem to the veins to the really little veins. And then we worked on drawing that leaf on a piece of paper. Now, once you did that drawing, you were asked to go over the lines and make nice strong lines with your crayons. And the reason why we did that is because today we're going to be working with a technique called Crayon Resist. Now, this is something that you've probably worked on with me before in various art projects, and it's because it's one of my favorite things to do. It always yields really beautiful and kind of exciting results. So the cool thing about crayons is that they have waxes and oils in them. And these waxes and oils make it impossible for water to soak into them. It's sort of like when you go outside and you're wearing a raincoat, the water from the rain hits your raincoat, beads up, and falls off. It can't soak in. So the crayons on your paper are almost like creating a little bit of a raincoat right in that spot. So let me show you what I mean. I'm going to grab a piece of paper real quick, put it right over. And I guess the first thing that I should say is, since we're going to be painting today, it's a good idea to get set up with a mat underneath your paper to protect whatever, surface it is that you're going to be painting on. And I use like an old yogurt container for some water and of course a watercolor brush. One of the things that I like to always point out to students is that a watercolor brush has bristles that are very, very soft. And the reason why is because when bristles are soft, they are allowed to absorb more water. And the main ingredient of watercolor paint is, of course, water. So back to Crayon Resist. Now that I've got my paints all set up and my water container, crayons can't soak in water. So for example, if I were to, do a little drawing here, just something quick, and then I was to grab some paint. So first you need to activate the paints by getting them wet, of course. I've got a little bit of orange paint on my brush here. And what happens is when I paint over that, you'll notice that it can't soak into the area where I drew the crayon. Now, this becomes really exciting when you're painting over the whole thing, especially when you do some type of crayon rubbing, which is what we're going to do today. So we're going to do some crayon rubbing by putting a leaf under the paper. So if you have that collection of leaves from last week, grab that. If you don't, go out and grab a couple of leaves from outside. Just make sure that they're not super wet. And then basically you put them underneath the paper. Now, here is an extra twist that I'm going to put in for this project. Instead of using a color like yellow over here today for our crayon rubbing, we're going to use white. And you'll notice that this white is kind of dirty looking because it's been hanging out with a bunch of other crayons in a container. And what I did was to peel a white crayon, and so now I've got a crayon without wrapper, and this is perfect for doing a crayon rubbing. So I have a leaf under there, and I'm just going to use the side of my crayon and rub back and forth, back and forth. Well, you're probably saying, but wait a minute, we can't actually see anything because white crayon doesn't show up on white paper. And you'd be right. But watch this. It's almost like invisible ink or something. It's like kind of a little bit of magic. Now I'm going to take that same orange I used before, and I'm just going to go right over the crayon rubbing that I just made. And what you're going to notice is that the lines of the leaf now appear in white because that white crayon is acting like a raincoat in that one spot and creating this really beautiful texture. Texture is a really important art element It's the way that something feels. Okay, so fast forward, now that we've seen how that works, we're going to come back to our beautiful leaf drawing that we did last week. So let me swap this out. I still have my leaves that I can do crayon rubbing with. Here I've got my drawing. All right, now I'm going to take that white crayon and I'm going to do some more crayon rubbing right over the entire paper. So really quick here, I'm just going to place my leaf underneath. These leaves are getting a little crispy now because they've been off the trees for so long. And I'm just going to do some rubbing right here. Now it's really important that you press down hard when you're doing crayon rubbing. That's how it will show up the best. Now I'm going to place this maybe even right directly under the whole leaf. And I'm just going to rub. There it is. Now maybe I'll do a different leaf. So I'm going to grab one of my maple leaves, stick it here in the corner. And for my artwork, I want texture on the whole paper. So I'm going to do leaf rubbings all over. So it looks like a pile of leaves, maybe under this one leaf that I drew. And you'll notice a little bit of, you know, the colors coming off that were on the edges of my white crayon, and that's okay. I'm going to make this one go off the side of the paper here. Maybe I'll come down here now. And I'll make some even right here by the stem. Think I can do this 2 more times. And although you can't really see the white on white crayon, you can kind of see where there's a little bit of a shine on the paper that will show you where you've done and where you haven't. So I'm going to look, and I think that for the most part, I have done a crayon rubbing with white on the whole paper. Okay, so now that I've done that, I'm going to turn it back around. And I've got my paints already set up from that last example. So I'm just going to keep on going. So what my plan is, I'm going to start with the leaf first. So for the leaf on the inside, I'm going to use some fall time colors. So I'm going to grab this sort of red orange, and I'm getting it wet, and brought it over to my color. Now I'm going to start to paint, and I'm going to end up with this really cool texture under here. So you'll see it's kind of beading up. It won't soak in there. And now I'm going to go to a different color. There's kind of a bright yellow over here that has a little bit of green in it, so we'll see how that turns out. Now the cool thing is too, not only is it picking up the texture of the leaves that I put underneath, but it's also not soaking into the drawing that I did last week because I traced that with crayon. So I'm just going to keep on going over, and it's going to fill in the areas where there is no crayon. Now I'm going to switch colors again. I think I'm going to go for a green this time. Come right over here. And I'm going to keep going, maybe with some red this time. And I'm going to mix those 2 colors together in that spot. And then keep on going with a little bit more red down here. Oh, I'm loving how it's getting that nice texture line there through the leaf. Almost like a little forest inside that leaf I drew last week. Maybe I'll do a little bit of green, darker green over here, and see if I can fill in. Now you'll notice I'm having to go really slow when I get around the edges. That's because I want to keep that color inside the lines there. Keep on going, and then maybe I'll finish off with the green right here on the edge. Okay, so now that my leaf is painted, and wow, I really love how that turned out, I'm going to go to the background. And I think I'm going to go with just some blues to almost make it look like the sky. But you can use whatever colors you want for the background. It's totally up to you. So I'm going to start with blue and then see how this all turns out. This is actually the first time I have tried this process with students, and I really am loving the results so far. And again, I love how you just never really know how the white is going to turn out, where the lines are going to end up, because it's so, you know, invisible until you start painting. It's just like the secret little message that's set up behind your leaf here. And again, you don't know until you start painting what it's going to turn out to be. So I'm sort of blending different blues together. I don't know if you noticed that I sort of shifted from one blue to the other. I think I'll shift back to this darker one now over here, kind of like that. I like the contrast with my lighter colors on the inside. And I'm going to bring that all the way down to the edge. You can see where there's some more leaves there. I might need to turn this into a project that we do every year because I just think this is really beautiful. And I'm going to keep on going, slowing down as I get to my edges so that I don't blend colors when I don't want to. And, you know, if I want a really, really light color, I'm going to add more water to my brush. So I'm going to go with a really, here's what I'll do. I'm going to go with a lot of paint on this one. So see how that color really showed up nice and dark? I'm going to do another one. So here's a lot of paint. Look at the difference in my color when I've got a lot of paint on my brush. Now, if I want that color to get lighter, all I have to do is add more water. So I'm not even going to go back and grab more paint. I am just going to grab more water, and you'll see how that color just got much lighter. I'm going to do more again, trying to fade out that color a little bit as I go, and then I'm going to darken it up again. So I just came and added more paint, and you'll see how the color instantly right here gets darker because it's got more paint saturated on the brush. Get a little bit more paint here to finish out toward the top. Oh, I love how dark that turned out right there. And there is my beautiful painting. So here is our crayon resist leaf. I'm not sure you can see that all on there. Maybe I can do this. Crayon resist leaf project where we used white crayon to do our crayon rubbing to make it sort of magically appear as the texture of leaves behind my leaf drawing. I hope you guys are excited about the results as much as I am because I'm really loving the way this turned out. I hope you had fun with it. Think about all the possibilities of taking those white crayons and drawing, you know, little secret messages and then painting them and having them appear. It's a pretty cool technique. So I hope you enjoyed it, and I will be back in touch with you with a new art video next week. Hope you're all doing well. I miss you. Take care.